Ghosts are a rather polarizing... Hi, I'm Bob Gimlin. Ghosts are a polarizing issue. But of course, what isn't these days? What you're looking at is a series of photos I took in 2016. Back then, I was the night manager at a hotel, actually a resort. And part of the resort was a spa, which was across the street from the main building. And one of my nocturnal obligations was to swing by the spa a couple times a night to make sure that it was secure, because it's kind of secluded. Which I guess leads me to what you're seeing. This particular night in 2016, October 22nd of 2016 to be exact, was one of the first nights I had an iPhone. Until then, I had a BlackBerry, which was my favorite phone ever because of its lack of function. Not in spite of it. It just couldn't do all that much, which made it difficult to consume your life. And though I intensely missed buttons, I was quite entranced by the camera, as I think we all were when we upgraded to rectangles. And after doing all the cringy things that a young person does with a new camera, I had to admit that it was nothing short of miraculous. And as I suspected then, and am quite certain now, it's changed human psychology forever. Anyway, with my new phone, on one of my nightly rounds, I decided to randomly take pictures as I went through the spa. And in case you're unfamiliar with iPhones, you're seeing the still photo first, and then the live capture feature, which I guess is an iPhone thing where every photo has a little video accompanying it. And of this sequence of 118 photos, I believe several captured that which cannot be. I'm going to show every single photo alongside its little accompanying live capture thing. Of the 118 photos I took that night at the spa, I thought there were 5 that depict an alleged apparition, but upon making this video, I discovered one more, actually. As you can see, I'm showing all the photos, not just the ghost ones, and I'm doing that as a point of good practice, so your eyes can acclimate and make a more effective decision. But for all you impatient Patricks out there, I might put a timestamp in the comment section so you can skip to the breakdown. Every time I went to the spa after closing, it felt strange. Not bad, not good, just strange. Or as I so eloquently put it at the time, just the kind of place that if you didn't know where you were going, you feel like you'd never get there. Even when you're alone, you never really feel like it. And it was definitely a little frightening. Maybe not frightening, but unnerving. And I mean just because, being alone in a big building secluded. I don't mean it was unnerving because of ghosts or anything. But I very much had the feeling that there would be someone around every corner. That's just how it felt. Busy, I think is the best way to put it. I never had the vibe that I was alone. Which was a bad thing, obviously, because I was supposed to be alone. And I can say with near 100% certainty that I was the only breathing human in the facility. It just felt busy. Like there might be someone around any corner. Which is interesting because the spa, even on busy days, it was not only designed but managed to never feel busy. There was never a crowd in any one place, and I was never there when it was open anyway. And just so you're aware, I did not notice the figures the night that I took them. Yes, this night, I had no idea that I'd captured some of the most compelling paranormal evidence that I've ever seen, personally or from anyone else. And to be completely honest with you, and this is strange, a little bit I guess, but I don't even remember when I noticed the figures in the frames. But I know it wasn't the night I took them. It must have been in the following days. Which brings us to our first apparition. So first I look down this long creepy hallway, then I turn to go into one of the service rooms, have a look about for whatever reason. And then I get fixated on this window at the end of the hall. I take 3 photos of the window. And then one at the floor. The baseboard, maybe. And I must have walked away. I'm looking at the window from a distance, but I'm heading back to it. And then here is the first of several in this sequence that seem to depict something else, to the right of the flash. And if you're not convinced, you can see it better on the live capture, and I'll replay it. Again, I didn't even notice the figure in this sequence until I started working on this video. This was not the subject of this video. I haven't even gotten to the good part yet. And it's easy to think at first that this silhouette is just me, but it's not, because I'm holding the phone in front of my face, and you can even make out that there's no arm between where the figure is and the flash. Just to be clear, I'm holding the phone to my face on the left. To prove that the silhouette on the right isn't me, look at this photo from earlier, from a few photos ago. See, no figure. I'm the only silhouette in the picture, with the flash in front of my face. And then about 10 pictures later, in the same spot, I'm not the only figure in frame. It's incredible. Am I missing some? Is there some way that this is like my reflection or something that I'm completely missing? Because it kind of seems like it can't be. But it is. Then I go away, look at some doors. And again, sorry if this is boring, but I'm literally showing you every photo I took that night in order. So, looking at doors. But then wouldn't you know it, I end up right back in front of that window. I was alone in there. But not alone. Strangely enough, this photo is the last photo that used the live capture. After this photo, the live capture feature ended, which according to my research is a result of low battery. When low battery mode turns on, it only takes the normal still capture. But I took 6 more pictures of that window. And well, I was all prepared to say that after the live feature ended, that it didn't pick up anything else, but as I'm looking at it, it sure looks like someone disappearing down the hall. I have the goose pimples. I will label, blow up, and scrub. So here are the 6 photos I took after the live capture feature ended, and they're blown up to 300%. Maybe I've been looking at this for too long, but I see a figure, like, going maybe down the hall. See that? But the fact that the live feature terminated as a result of low battery really jives with what paranormal speculators claim about alleged spirits or entities requiring a power source to manifest. I don't feel qualified to speculate on that, but who on earth is? The reason I'm kind of doubtful of that claim is because what would make anyone think that these things have to follow the same rules that we do, or that our reality does? But I guess everything requires power, so... Some people might say this is a shadow person, which I actually only now, in this exact moment, found that notion kind of insulting. I've always been under the impression that shadow people are evil, and that just isn't the vibe of this place. I think we've all been to locations, at least if you have any imagination or intuition at all. But for me, anyway, I've been to places that feel wicked. Places that literally make me feel sick, and that make my heart ache. And I put a lot of stock into that feeling, because every time I've experienced that, it's never been a place that looked like it. Big evil will tell you exactly what it is. Little evil is more nondescript. Usually, if that makes any sense. It's not like this place looks evil, so I think it's evil. It's like a gut feeling, and usually pretty nondescript places. And I think it's weird how the empiricists will fight so hard against that, even though I think it's a pretty universal truth, that some places just stink of badness. And this spa just isn't one of them. Far from it. It's creepy. It was creepy being there alone after dark, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't nasty. I don't know. I'm reluctant to say that anything evil or ill-intentioned is depicted in this sequence. It's actually weirding me out a little bit how passionate I feel about that right now. Okay. Now we get to the actual ghost photos that this video was actually supposed to be about. But I can't believe this. So this is just a washed out photo. I'd just as well assume that I had my thumb over the flash or something. And then I make my way into the lounge. But I took 16 more photos wherein the live capture is unfortunately disabled. And of those 16 photos, an obvious and apparent apparition appears in no less than 6 of them. 6 out of 16. That's 37% of the remaining photos. And the apparition you're about to see is no reflection. And right here is the first time it appears. See in the chair? Let's blow it up. I may not have even noticed this had it not been for the photos to come. Empty chair, empty tables, fireplace, and again, same figure, same place, and here it is blown up to 300%. Here's the bar and the POS station, another of the bar, but here it is again, and blown up to 300%. I know this is too much, I really do. Then the fireplace again, And then the figure again, and blown up to 300. This looks like its neck is twisted, or broken. But that might just be me, you know? The desire to make the scene fit the narrative, so to speak. Though, to be honest, I know of no narrative of this place that suggests a haunting. Then the bar, and then, of course, as is dictated by the nature of things, my very last photo of the night. That right there, has eye shine. For the longest time, I thought this was the only ghost photo from the night, to be honest. It wasn't until some time later that I noticed that the same figure is in several pictures, and then it wasn't until I started making this video that I noticed the figures in the window. Do ghosts have eye shine? I'm not really sure what that light in the window is. It's definitely not something outside. There's only woods beyond the glass, but I suppose it's probably just the camera flash. I was alone, on paper at least. Really, the only explanation I have for this, other than the paranormal, is that someone was silently in that chair, and I didn't notice. But I don't believe that for a moment. Not a single second. Not for a single second do I think an employee or forest person snuck in there and I didn't notice. If that was just a person, I would have noticed them, and it would have scared the absolute stuff out of me. I'd assume you'd be the same way, but trust me when I say that being the only person in a rather creepy facility at midnight, my senses were heightened. There's literally no way I wouldn't have noticed a person sitting 10 to 15 feet away. You know, I was quite alert for anything amiss, as a matter of self-preservation. And it was no Halloween decoration or anything like that. This place is pretty high-end, and certainly isn't the plastic skeleton type of place, and this is no skeleton. I was the manager on duty. Short of maintenance, I was the only person on the property with the keys to the spa. The spa was only open 9 to 5, I think, and this was probably taken around midnight. We skeleton crews are a unique breed. To this day, these photos make the hair on my neck stand up. But yet, I don't know. I want to say they don't particularly frighten me, but honestly they do. Though I will say, I never felt the dread or the malintent that you often hear about from allegedly haunted locations. As I've said several times now, it just felt busy, crowded. That's the best way I can describe the vibe. Like, at every turn I was about to walk into someone, or like I should stick to one side of the hall to make way for someone else coming from the opposite direction. I know that sounds silly because I was alone, but that's how I felt. I don't even really attribute that thought to anything paranormal. Even the most skeptical people can admit to vibes, or perhaps locational attitude would be an attempted less pseudo-scientific term, I'd guess. I'm not keeping the vicinity a secret. The resort is called Heidel House in Green Lake, Wisconsin. I worked there as both an associate and later as a manager. As the manager on duty, my obligations were basically everything, from front desk to housekeeping to bartending to running food. Back when I worked there, I think I worked there until 2017, but when I worked there, the resort and spa were owned by the same company, but now they have separate owners and are separate entities. Uploading this video is actually against my better judgment, believe it or not. And this is actually a reason that I resonate with a lot of the witnesses that I choose to cover on my channel. Every experience I've ever had that goes beyond conventional explanation. And I've had a good amount of them. And despite what the TV says, a great many people have. But they've never really been a big deal to me. Like, well, that happened. All right then. I gotta punch out for lunch. I think a lot of internet skeptics have this notion that if you see a ghost, or a Bigfoot for that matter, that you call the National Guard and a huge investigation is launched. But that's just not how it works. Some things just happen. I like to think that maybe I made a friend, and whoever this fellow is, maybe he was a fellow night owl. Maybe he just liked my company. I don't really care if you believe it. Or if you believe me, I should say. Honestly, I hope you do. Because I think it's a positive thing to consider the beyond. Such belief structures make the tedium and doldrum of our days more bearable. I merely filed this away as one of the several amazing and inexplicable things that's happened to me throughout my relatively short life. It's of little to no consequence, and life is full of them, if you're able to see meaning in naught. For 8 years, I've had some of the best evidence of ghosts that I've ever seen, and I literally have a paranormal channel. And throughout that whole time, I've been very skeptical of claims about ghosts, which is wild. And I just sat on these photos because, well, I don't really know. I think part of the reason I've never showed these is because I try to be empirical. I really do. And I know that's a weird thing for a Bigfoot person to say, but I do. And I have no empirical explanation for this. At least, not one that the empiricists would approve of. Even to this day, I'm inclined to say that I don't believe in ghosts. And that's because I fundamentally don't understand why one wouldn't just be like, yo, I'm a ghost. Or why one, or theoretically a great deal more than one, wouldn't manifest in some regular and detectable and irrefutable way. And that's never happened, as far as I know. But tell me, do you believe in ghosts? Feel free to comment your ghost story below. I think everyone really enjoys reading them. I know I do. Anyway, happy Halloween, regardless of what day you're watching. And as always, thanks an awful lot for listening.
The thing about this place is that no matter how sure you are that you're alone, you just never feel like you are. Like, this really has more of a hospital vibe than anything.